I'm going to ask you a few questions and answer within your own mind. Because there's too many of us here right now, but please do answer within your own mind. Are you happy right now? And then whichever way you've answered, why? And then lastly, what is happiness? It's actually not so easy to answer that last question. Most people will say a state of mind, a feeling, an emotion. And if you take away that, what is happiness? Interesting that it's hard to define. We so seek it, right? So much of what we're doing is for happiness, in pursuit of happiness, out of happiness. In fact, when we define love, we can still come up with a few words: kindness, care, sharing, warmth. Not so easy with happiness. Smile. Or we use synonyms for happiness, right? But not what it is. So we're going to explore it, even though it's probably one of the most explored topics in all of time, because highly discussed, right from kindergarten onwards. They learn the emotions and they emphasize, especially now in today's world with mental well-being, knowing that you're sad, knowing how to be happy. In fact, they mentioned I write the kids' books, and there's this change in the trend of writing kids' books from stories, which are now no longer as popular, but these self-help kind of how to be happy for kids' books. So definitely something that is very, very discussed, possibly over-discussed. There's a beautiful story about a young man who felt so burdened with life, all the stresses and strains and the sorrows, and so went in search of a spiritual master, arrived at the feet of the spiritual master and asked this very question: how can I be happy when there's so much pressures and so many problems and so many challenges, and I just feel so burdened with all the things that life has given or I have to deal with or have to accomplish. And after speaking for like a good 40 minutes about everything he's going through at that present point in time in his life, the spiritual master heard everything and then stood up and walked away. The student thought, oh, but came back very shortly with a glass of water and a bottle of salt and asked the student to take a handful of salt and put it into the glass of water and then said, drink. And that handful of salt. And so the student drank one sip, spiritual master telling you, you try, drink second sip, struggling, but very sincere. So drank the third sip, just couldn't do it anymore. And so the master said, is it too salty? Of course it is. Yeah. And so he said, come with me. And they go to a huge lake. And once again, he tells the student to take a handful of salt, put it into the water. And then once again, he says, drink. It must have been clean, totally hygienic, cold spring kind of water. And he was happily drinking. How come? And why the difference? And it's so obvious, right? The lake is huge and the water gets dissipated. It's not noticeable. But in the glass of water, very noticeable. And so make your mind like the lake. If this was a Zen talk, I would stop here. And we would meditate for the rest of the, 15 minutes. Just meditate. Make your mind like the lake. Done. Our scriptures speak only about this. In fact, our scriptures always start at the most profound truth. I actually love that about the Vedas. Of course, when we go to school, we have to start with grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and we build up. And so we have this sense of we have to build up knowledge. But our scriptures start with, You are Brahman, Sachidananda. Oh, you didn't understand? Okay. You are a limited entity identified with the ego who has forgotten you are Brahman. Oh, still didn't understand? Okay. You have forgotten because there's this thing called Maya, da 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 da. But in the Vedas, they assume you know who you are. We don't have to build up knowledge because it's who we are. Isn't that lovely? Because really, it's who we are. It's the truth. And when we take away all the conditionings we experiencing, it's already here. But we're not experiencing. We are Satchidananda. We are experiencing I am body and I am mind. And depending on how much we think of ourselves as body and how much we limit ourselves in terms of the personality, it's that size of that glass. The glass that the salt got put into. Even if it's a big glass, right? You've got a bigger reach or a little bit more selfless, and you're able to not identify with just me and mine, and my family is included. My extended family is also included. Why? Even anyone walking on the streets who seems nice enough, we'll invite them in and we'll include them. Even if we large-hearted, our sense of self is still, well, there's a definite, and you'll hear it in when people say things like, how much am I supposed to tolerate? Like, how much to keep taking? How much to put up with? This how much? This is all, this much. This is how much I can tolerate. And it shrinks. This is how much I'm willing to forgive. And so, in that thinking, right? Oh, how much am I supposed to do? Like, isn't there anyone else here to do the seva? How much am I supposed to do? When we start to feel burdened, the feeling of being burdened is that limitation we put on ourselves. Because more than this, we feel is a strain, is a challenge. That's the glass. And in this glass of our mind, which has beautiful water in it, we've put in. I'm stressed about traffic. stressed about the email, stressed about so-and-so, stressed about political situation, stressed about global warming, stressed about, the list is quite long. Yeah. And some of it's related to us directly, and some of it's not even. We'll hear the news about something happening somewhere, and we'll get all worked up, stressed, feeling overwhelmed by that stress, or angry. We get angry fairly often because anger is, I didn't get what I wanted. And so that happens fairly often. And so there's a fair amount of stress from outside, and then from inside, all this anger that I've accumulated. And those are probably the two big ones that we collect very frequently on a daily basis. But there's also our fair share of sadness, our fair share of jealousy, our fair share of confusions of what to do, should I do, maybe I should have done, all of it. And then all those thoughts in that small little glass of our mind seems much. We use the word overwhelmed. Because there's a limitation. Sometimes I'll see one of these super mums, and then she's got like 4 kids of her own, and then the sisters left her 2 over, and the neighbors one came to play, and she's doing, feeding them, looking after them, listening to their story of the day, still preparing the dinner, answering the phone, and then you say, "How are you?" "I'm good." And protecting one from hitting the head, catching the other one, putting the band-aid. Has it been a good day? Great day. And then sometimes you'll meet a mom with 1 kid. And the dad's helping, or her mom's helping, and how are you? Parenting. And any example, you can go to the office and you see the same thing in an office setting, and you see the same thing in any setting. How much overwhelms us is purely determined by the boundary. We decide. This is too much. I teach, blessed to teach in so many different places. And you go to India and the Balvihar class has like 46 kids. And they'll say, one teacher, 46 kids in one room. And it's a normal class. And you go to a place like Singapore, and they have about 8 kids or 9 kids in the class. And I'll say, surely you can take 1 or 2 more. No. How will we manage? We have to give individualized attention to each one. Here, it's just how much I can. Now, I'm not saying one's better than the other. Having individualized attention has its benefits. Having 46 kids in a class has its benefits. Both have their pros and cons. But the teacher teaching puts a limit on how much they can do. The person working, the person feeling, puts a limit on how much they can feel. Yeah. So something happens and it's genuine. And genuine difficulties happen in our life, and it can create so much sorrow. Right? And we feel the sorrow. And some will feel it, and if you ask them, they'll nod or they'll shake, they might even tear. And some, when we ask them, the reply is, I can't take it. We create in how much we do and can do and deal with in our doing, but we also create in how much we can feel. And that's why we'll say things like, how much should I take? Like, when's enough to stop? And no one can tell us that because it's a personal threshold. So make your mind like the lake. Is this broadening of the boundary. And how do we do that? Well, fortunately, we have this most precious knowledge given to us by Sri Krishna. And I'm going to be referring to chapter 12, verse number 8.
मय्येव मन आधत्स्व मन आधत्स्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवसिष्यसि मय्येव अत ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः
Na samshaya, without doubt, we can attain being like a lake. Gita doesn't say lake, but in context of what we are saying, there's no doubt that we can increase the boundary and not just be the glass. And how to do that? The mind, manmaya, fix my mind on the higher. And fix the intellect on the higher as well. And so when we are thinking, I am this, whatever this is becomes who we are. So even though we don't directly think, I am body, when we are thinking about the physical pain of the body, or when we're thinking about our age of the body, or when we are thinking about the vanity of how we look, we are thinking, I am body. And then we get limited to body. But all of us know we are more than body. Because we're so busy asserting personality. We groom body, we may display body, we may package it, but really what we want to portray to other people is personality, which is beyond the body. So we won't ever argue we are more than the body. More than personality? Are we? We're not so sure. What are we other than our personality? Our beliefs? Our values? Some will assert those. A fair few will assert what I stand for, what I believe in. Okay. So what I'm feeling, or the general personality, more mind. The values and the beliefs, more intellect. When we center both the way we're feeling and the way we understand or what we believe in, to the higher. When we direct our attention to something higher. Here Krishna is saying the highest of the highest is that which is indestructible, that which is eternal and infinite would be the highest of the highest. But stepping stone to getting there, anything higher than me and mine, and then work our way up to that which is eternal, indestructible, immutable, imperishable, beyond time, beyond space, beyond causation. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Many names for that highest truth. So how big is the glass until it's the pond? And then even the pond is small. Because the highest is infinite. The pond still has, or the lake, still has a barrier. Much bigger than maybe what we're thinking of right now as our personality. And so stepping stone, right? Always, maybe, even though the Vedas start at the very highest, we might feel that unreachable. Yeah. We might think it's theoretical, or it's even, maybe we might even think it's not at all possible. Yeah. So what is possible? Expanding to at least the lake. Yeah. And from a glass of water to lake is significant. Yeah. Glass of water to bigger glass of water, easy. How much salt is going to affect that glass of water? Pretty much the same. Still going to be salty. So when the mind starts to think less about I am, body, this personality, and starts thinking more about not even I believe in ahimsa, or I believe in compassion, or I believe in harmony, but thinking about just compassion, not even I am. Yeah. The more we extend ourselves to be able to truly understand it, what compassion is. Because if I say I am compassionate, I'm still limited in my ability to be compassionate. Right? I feel I can only love so much. I can only tolerate so much. But if I think of compassion, it's so big. Even if I can't accomplish how big it is, my mind's already expanded to the entirety of understanding compassion. And it also helps to take away the need for I am. We today we hear it so much. Often we'll have discussion groups. And in the discussion groups, people will say, I think, I believe, I feel. And I'm saying it nicely. They usually say, I think. it's like, it's so important what I think. It's usually said with this, or it's a disclaimer. I don't care what you think. I think. I feel truth is. I feel love is. To me, love is. And so very tailor-made. And then it's all in social media as well. If you watch YouTube and the Instagrams and people we don't know, and 14-year-old high school girls fully telling, I think, we've almost conditioned ourselves as default setting to add this I think, I feel, I want into all our thinking. And that creates boundaries. In saying to me love is, I feel love is, one, we've assumed everything is, what's the word? Individual, unique to the individual. Oh, I'm forgetting the word. Subjective. There's another word I was thinking of though, but it's not coming. So one, we assume that things are not truth, but they subjectives, they points of views. Love is not a truth, it's a point of view. It's personal. And then second, it's what my stance on it is very distinct. But if we think about just compassion, without I think or I can, already mind is bigger. To think about just harmony, or to think about courage, and the vastness of courage. And each individual is scared of different things, and so they think of courage in what they're scared of. Someone who's very shy, courage is talking. But someone who has so much to say and feels they're not heard enough, courage is being quiet. And courage can be standing up, but courage can also be sitting down and letting another do. And so if I think courage to me, it's still putting a barrier. But the vastness of courage, and the beautiful thing about that, when I take away I think from the equation, and I'm just embracing all of the possibilities of courage and all of the possibilities of compassion, I start to recognize it in other people. And I open my heart and my mind to express it in a different way within myself as well. Yeah. And sometimes that spontaneity is far more spiritual than when we do scripted behavior. Right? It's what I've always done, and so that it's what I continue to do. But truly spontaneous is spiritual because in that moment we do what is appropriate. Yeah. So fix your mind on me. The highest is Brahman, Sat Chit Ananda. So means whatever I'm feeling right now, in the vastness of existence of all of life, this feeling is significant. I'm not taking away the validity of what we feel, but it becomes less of a burden. And it's me that is Sat Chit Ananda. Somewhere deep within, beyond the body, beyond all my fears and my angers and my limitations, beyond my insecurities, beyond all my desires, in me itself, there's this beautiful silence that is fully content, that has total sense of well-being for myself and everyone else. And it's tapping into that. And that's what makes the mind vast. Because otherwise I get stuck in he said, she did, I feel, I want, I think. Fix your mind on something higher. Even if we not fixing our mind on Brahman. So often we've seen when we're working for a higher cause, when there's some natural disaster that has happened somewhere, everyone comes together, yeah, to try and provide relief for the people who have been affected. And you just make time, or you take out the money, even though, because it's you need it right now. So we have capacity to, but we do it only in like crisis kind of situations. Then it itself shows us we're able to, if we can do it when there's a crisis, we can do it even when there isn't one. And the only difference is we don't see the need to, or we don't want to. So higher, even if it's not Brahman, something higher where it's including society, my community, or all of mankind. And even if that's too vague and large for us to be able to focus on, then specifically my school, my neighborhood. So I've seen amazing, like the kids raising funds for their school projects, or the Brownie group, or the Boy Scout group, and with such enthusiasm. Just even young kids, huh? It's not for them. And around about high school, I think most schools all over the world do fundraising where they fast for 24 hours to make the kids understand what it's like to be hungry. And they get sponsored to do that. And so they go around and collect sponsors. I'm sure you've all heard of this and experienced it and sponsored kids yourself to be able to do it, because we're encouraging them to do the right thing and we want them to be responsible. It's very interesting that it's not compulsory that they do this, right? Not eat for 24 hours. It's not compulsory. But you're doing it to raise money for people who are hungry, erase poverty. And how many kids in the class will put up their hand to do it? 90. And the ones who don't do it is some health restriction, and they're not able to, or something along those lines. Very rare it will be like, I don't want to. Hey, maybe, but very, very, very few. We want to work for something higher. And when we're given an opportunity to, we thrive. We see it with the kids, and we the same. Highest being Brahman, fix your mind on me. And that's infinite. But anything higher, fix your intellect on me as well. So not just the cognitive understanding that this is good, but having the sense of love and for whatever it is we're working towards. Then no doubt we experience this vastness. The very word moksha means freedom. And even when we're waiting for some news and we're thinking that it's going to be bad news, and then we find out it's not, that wonderful sense of freedom from the stress, from the fear. Or we really angry with a loved one because we think they've done something, and then actually we misunderstood and they do love me after all. There's such a The minute we have that boundary, it causes a sense of suffocation. And the minute it expands, there's relief, there's freedom. And that's why what we're working towards is moksha, because it's synonymous. Happiness is that sense of freedom. The more free we feel, the more happy we feel. But when we're thinking ourselves to be small, and then there's so many thoughts in there, overwhelmed. We feel overwhelmed. And the thing is, the truth is we are vast. It's not even like we're trying to accomplish something we're not. Like in yoga, cannot do a handstand, and I'll only be happy when I do the handstand. And we have to work so hard at doing something we cannot do at this point in time, or being something we are not at this point in time. Here, I already am. Sure, I'm body, or identified with body. I'm mind, identified with mind, intellect, identified with intellect. But I'm something beyond that. Even right now, all of us can feel it. Right? You wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't. And so it's there. Even if you don't know what exactly it is, because that's what most people will say, how to feel it, or how to experience it, or how to even want it when I don't know what it is. Doesn't matter if you don't know what it is, just stop being what you are. And give a chance to be what's already there. Okay. Unfortunately, we fight to be what we are. We talk about rights. And sure, we are, not to take away anyone's, but this is not the outside. This is in my thinking process. The more I think those thoughts, okay, that it's a right and it should be this way and I want it this way, and that's what narrows the boundary, increases the overwhelm. And so make the mind like the lake. And that's just the starting. Right? Making the mind like the lake is just the beginning. And that's already so much joy and relief that we experience. If we can really study scriptures and understand what scriptures are telling us about the nature of Brahman, then it's easier to help take the mind to that. Okay? So, we taught very early on in the study of Vedanta that we are our nature and we can't be anything but our nature. And the classic example given is sugar is sweet and sugar cannot be anything but sweet. How many people in this room has already heard that? Oh, not so many. No, seriously, come on. How many people in this room have already heard? I knew. Okay. We are our nature, and we cannot be anything but our nature. So, what is the nature of body? Oh, you're looking shocked. I like this look. It suits you. What is the nature of the body? Changes. Very good. Tattva Bodh example. Aging. Very good. Practical example. Experiencing it day by day. Okay, let me put it to you another way. Is the nature of the body happiness? Yes? Anyone saying yes? Yes? Nature of the body is happiness? Yeah. Thinking about it? Body is made up of? You can answer in many different ways. If you attended Nirvana Shatakam, there's at least 4 different ways in which you can answer. Any of the ingredients that make up the body, nature of happiness? That gives us a pretty good indication if we're going to find happiness inside our body. Because we are our nature and cannot be anything but the nature. What about our mind? This is a trick question. Body was easy. What's the nature of our mind? Happiness? Some of you are not thinking, you're just waiting for me to answer, which means I won't answer. You have to think. Tonight's homework. Is the nature of your mind happiness? How will you know what your nature of your mind is? You cannot be anything other than that. You still don't know what the nature of the mind is. Think. Maybe tomorrow we'll answer. Nature of the intellect? What's of the nature of happiness? Which part of me is nature of happiness? I will always be my nature, cannot be anything but my nature. It's really quite simple. It's not at all complicated. You cannot make something it is not. You cannot make lemons sweet. Yeah? You can add sugar to lemons and make lemonade, but you cannot make lemons sweet. You cannot take it away from its nature. You cannot make fire cold. In our pursuit for happiness, what are we doing? Finding happiness or trying to make things that are not the nature of happiness happy? What are we doing? Will we succeed in trying to make things that are not of the nature of happiness happy? So when I say make the mind like a lake, can the mind become like a lake? Yes. Master wouldn't give this analogy if it was not possible. You still haven't figured out what the nature of the mind is. But you figured out a few other things, so you have the capacity in you to figure things out. So when Krishna says, fix your mind on me, he's not specifically saying fix mind on Krishna. He's saying this highest, which is of the nature of happiness, of the nature of love, of the nature of wisdom. And sometimes when people come to spirituality and read such verses and think, we have to forget the whole world, give up all our enjoyments and think of only God. This is why we don't come to your talks. You'll tell me to stop doing all the fun things in life. Actually, Gita is not saying that. It's simply saying, if you want something, then you fix your mind on that thing. If it's happiness you want, fix your mind on infinite, eternal, unblemished happiness. This highest truth has other natures too. It's happiness too. But this is something I love to contemplate on. When we talk about God, we say omnipotent, omniscient, and all-pervasive. I told the kids that in the family camp this weekend, and they came up with so many scenarios of God making, if He's omnipotent, He should be able to make a rock that even He cannot lift. I'm still thinking, what would be the purpose of that? It's to prove He's omnipotent. I said, but if He's omnipotent, He should be able to lift it. No, if He's omnipotent, He should be able to make it. We have such amazing knowledge, and then what we do with it. Riddles that get us nowhere. What are we supposed to do with this beautiful knowledge of omnipotent? Every time I get obsessed with wanting power, you might think I am not obsessed with power. You want your spouse to agree with you. You want to have control over your spouse. Power. You want the kids to listen to you. You want to be able to direct all parts of their lives. Power. That tracking device on the phone where you know where the power. We want to be able to have flawless skin even though we are aging and hair that does not fall. Power. I am going to fight against the natural order of the body which ages. We seek power in so many small ways, and then of course we seek it in big ways. Every time the mind gets filled with I want, and I get so annoyed with somebody else who is taking away my power or threatening my power, if I remember that the highest truth is infinite potential of power, I don't have to fight anyone for it. Nor do I have to have power over anyone else. Because at the highest level, we are all one. And all of us have that same infinite truth of power and potential for power. Then that glass almost cracks, never mind broadens. Why? Because I'm not thinking about my power, but infinite power. And in infinite power, we would find solutions where everyone benefits. In infinite power, we wouldn't assert power over someone because in infinite power, we use power to lift other people up. Fix your mind on me is think of the highest that exists and think of it as existing in me. In me tuning into infinite power, I can find a solution where we both win. We both gain. We both look good. Because if we stick to the glass and I want power over you, when I get it, there'll be a bit of me that's not quite completely happy. And you'll definitely not be happy. And if you're not happy, you won't let me stay happy. You won't, right? Especially if I took your happiness away from you. And so if we stay in the glass, it's this perpetual overwhelming of thoughts and creating barriers that bring us more pain than happiness. But when we lift our mind to the highest that exists, maybe we don't reach there. Maybe we don't reach quite the highest. But there's that beautiful saying, right? If you reach for the moon, you'll at least reach your roof. Hopefully higher than your roof, but at least your roof. Yeah. And so Krishna says, think big. Because in thinking small, we continue to suffer. In smallness, there is suffering. Na alpa sukham asti. In smallness, there is no happiness. If I think I am small, no happiness. And in my thinking, if I think small, there is no happiness. And so think so big that it's infinite. We'll pause here for today. You have homework. Your homework is by tomorrow, make your mind like a lake. And understand the nature of mind and intellect. And the nature of what it is that has happiness. And we'll continue on our reflections tomorrow. Thank you all for coming to share this time with me and joining me on my reflections. Sarve bhavantu sakhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet, asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, Mrityarma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari